Silent Hill: The Short Message just released for free on the PlayStation 5 store, and I'm a huge Silent Hill fan, so I want to take a look at this game and see how it compares to other Silent Hills and sort of where it sits as a piece of art on its own. Anyone familiar with the franchise already knows that Silent Hill is all about the trauma of the protagonist in the game. In the first Silent Hill game, you play as Harry Mason, a blank slate of a protagonist who loses his daughter in Silent Hill, and he spends the game searching for her. Harry Mason is essentially a blank slate for the player to put themselves into. There's nothing that special about him. We're not given too much of his actual story. He's really just there to be a part of the events that happen in Silent Hill. Through this, though, we're examining different traumas of different people in the town. Harry Mason's just not really the person we're examining. We're really looking more at characters like Lisa, who's got more traumas that are a little more fleshed out for us to understand. That being said, Silent Hill 1 is the framework that all the others built off of, and it's generally agreed that Silent Hill 2 is the real masterpiece of the series. Playing as James Sunderland, you've received a letter from your dead wife, and now you have to go to Silent Hill to figure out what's going on, essentially. And without giving the whole game away, you're exploring all of James's trauma, and everything that happens in Silent Hill is a reflection of that trauma. Silent Hill 3 is a direct sequel to Silent Hill 1, where you play as Heather Mason, the daughter of the protagonist from the first game. This game is much more an exploration of Heather's traumas and the traumas that young girls can experience. For example, there's a lot more imagery really focused around the themes of bodily autonomy. In Silent Hill 4, we're once again playing as a protagonist, Henry, who's really more of a blank slate for us as a character, and we're looking at smaller vignettes of side characters and examining their traumas. Henry's got his own problems, but again, that's not really the biggest part of the story. We're looking more at side characters and what they're bringing to the mix. While there are other games in the Silent Hill series, spin-offs, and one of my favorites, Origins, which might be a little divisive, it's these 4 games that make up the building blocks of what Silent Hill is really known for. Psychological horror, examining the traumas of our protagonists and side characters, camera angles that help deliver more cinematic scares, and an eerie atmosphere that really isn't matched in any other horror series. This isn't just a ripoff of Resident Evil. Silent Hill left its own unique mark on the DNA of survival horror video games. That being said, Silent Hill is a franchise that's been a bit neglected over the past few years, relegated to pachinko machines and online groups and forums that clamor to have their favorite series return. That's where the short message comes in sort of an interesting way. There's no doubt that this is a short experience, but a lot of the heart of Silent Hill is here. Masahiro Ito returns to character design and otherworld design, and Akira Yamaoka returns with original compositions for the game. If you're a fan of either one of these artists, there's going to be a lot about this game that you really enjoy. It's dripping with the atmosphere that we've known from the original Silent Hill games, just in a more condensed package. I personally really enjoyed this game, especially as a piece of art. When it comes to Masahiro Ito's enemy design this time around, and there's really only one in the game, I really like what he did with cherry blossoms, as opposed to gore. The flowery cherry blossom design of the stalker enemy is fantastic. This time around, we're in the first person. Modern horror fans are going to be familiar with this as a walking simulator. There's really no combat, there's maybe 1 or 2 puzzles, but it's not so much about that. It's really about the story and the sense of atmosphere that you get from the game. In my eyes, it seems like we were delivered here a bit of a taste of maybe what's to come or what could be on the current console generation. This is a short experience with some of the people from Team Silent that we really love, and it seems like they're kind of dipping their feet into the next-gen waters and kind of seeing what we come up with. There's going to be fans of the original Silent Hill games who may not like this game. It's a little bit different, and the story is far more blunt and on the nose than some of the other ones. That being said, that's not a bad thing at all. This is a linear experience. This is trying to tell you a story with a finite amount of characters in one location, and it does that job very well. This Silent Hill finds us in the middle of a friend group at a crossroads. We have 3 friends, one of whom is a big artist and is gaining more notoriety on social media as time goes on. Ultimately, a really interesting story unfolds relating to the dynamic between these 3 characters. There's a lot of exploration of teenage traumas, a lot of things that teenagers maybe have to deal with now. Social media, the pressure that comes with presenting yourself online, bullying, parental abuse, and self-harm. As with all other Silent Hill games, This game really dives into trauma and displays some things that may be hard for some players to watch, especially if you have experience with any of these traumas. If the modern struggles of teenage youth are something that you'd like to explore more deeply, this is a good game for that. Some of the dialogue may seem extremely edgy.
Everyone's losing their futures. That's all adults are. A slave to the system.
I remember when I was a teenager, and I was dealing with my own issues of depression, a lot of my thoughts were very black and white. Now that I'm a father, seeing these issues play out on the screen really affected me. It makes me think about the world my daughter's going to be growing up in, and the kind of lessons, the kind of morality that is going to be passed on to her generation. These kinds of games, while not always 100% accurate, can give us a bit of an insight into the mindset of somebody who's struggling. Feelings of self-doubt reflected in the post-it notes that are found all over the scenery really struck a chord with me, because when I'm dealing with my own internal stressors, it sometimes feels like I'm caught in a whirlwind of words. These post-it notes being plastered all over the sceneries makes it feel like these feelings are completely unavoidable. It's a strong representation of what it can feel like to be in the throes of depression. Another thing I really love is the focus on graffiti art in this game. One of the main characters of the game is a graffiti artist who focuses on showcasing the hidden pain of girls. This artwork ends up being a catalyst for her social media popularity and for our main character's potential jealousy. Although we find out later in the game that the jealousy goes a bit deeper than that, and that jealousy leads to a bit of denial. Essentially, we're here in Silent Hill trying to escape the truth. But as we all know, Silent Hill does not let you escape the truth. It only forces you towards it. That's where the enemy design comes in. And without giving too much away, I really love what Masahiro Ito did with the main Cherry Blossom enemy here. I also have to shout out the PS5 controller. As I was playing, you get the crackle of your cell phone in your hand, and you hear the flutter of cherry blossom leaves as the enemy gets closer to you. It's a really unique horror experience, and it got me totally scared. But aside from that, I loved the idea of these cherry blossoms being something threatening. Rather than having wounds with blood and viscera leaking from them, we have wounds where cherry blossoms come from, this beauty out of the pain sort of idea. Another thing I really like about this game are the live action cutscenes. For some people this may take them out of the game, but for me it just harkens back to an earlier time in survival horror and helps showcase one of the things I love about video games as an art form. It's multimedia. To me, all the components come together to create one artistic package, and these live action scenes don't pull me out at all. If anything, they give me a new artistic way to look at what's going on in the story, to build relationships with characters, and to flesh them out even more. Considering that this game only takes about 2 hours, we really need as much character growth as we can get in the short amount of time. So I think live action cutscenes were a good idea, and I'd actually like to see more full motion video scenes in the future. Now when it comes to the audio, Akira Yamaoka is always on point. His oppressive industrial and atmospheric tones set the stage. As soon as you're in the apartment building, you're gonna feel like you're in a Silent Hill game, even if you're in the first person and even if some things are a little bit different. There's also some nods to longtime Silent Hill fans. I'm looking at you, map on the wall. I wanted to pick you up really bad. But all in all, this game's kind of doing a lot of new stuff. Now, it's not breaking any grounds in terms of gameplay or anything you may not have seen before, right? This is a survival horror game, and it's a walking simulator. It's very similar to some things that are out there before. But what's important about this game is the story, and what makes it stand apart is it tells an important story. There's members of the Silent Hill community who are not a fan of this game. As a longtime fan of the Silent Hill series myself, Silent Hill has always been comfortable with doing something a little different, trying something a little new, for better or for worse. But this is just another step along the way, and you can really feel the passion for the team in this project. Again, there's original members of Team Silent on here, and you can feel the passion just like you felt in some of the older games. It leaves me excited for the future of the Silent Hill franchise. Us Silent Hill fans have not been eating good for a long time now. It's really nice to have something, even if it's a small experience, that makes you feel like you're back in Silent Hill. There's inevitably going to be people who are complaining this is not PT. This is its own thing. It's a unique work of art, and I think it should be viewed as a standalone work of art. Yeah, in the framework of the Silent Hill series, but take it for what it is. This is a piece of art telling us a short story that they think is important to communicate to us. processing your trauma isn't simple. It can feel like a vicious cycle. It can feel like you're dying over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, there's always people there for you, regardless of how bad you think you may have hurt them, regardless of what you think you've done to not deserve somebody's love. You do deserve it. You deserve all the love.
You deserve all the muffins. Because what you're doing is amazing.
And while these games are survival horror games focusing on horrifying topics and things that are super traumatic and can be hurtful for some people to revisit and experience, I do hope that people can walk away from this game with somewhat of an understanding. Maybe a little more compassion, a bit more empathy. Maybe they take a little bit more time listening to someone, or don't write someone off right away. There's a lot of lessons to learn from the Silent Hill franchise. And for a lot of us, maybe some of us who've gone through our own traumas, it's an interesting series for us because it makes us feel seen in a way. It can help us process our own traumas, the ones that aren't on the screen, or maybe they relate to the ones on the screen. All in all, I really enjoyed the Silent Hill game, both as a part of the Silent Hill franchise and as a standalone piece of art. Check it out. You might just find yourself lost in Silent Hill one more time.